Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Laura and this is going to be your Yin Yoga class today. Today we will be centering our class theming around ego. Our poses will be held for about 2 to 5 minutes depending on the posture, and we will also spend time in stillness in each pose and giving ourselves time to think about how the ego affects our life and how our practice can help improve and break through the boundaries of ego. When we go through our class today, you might want to have a yoga block or two or a bolster to assist you in staying in the poses for these lengthier amount of times. We're going to get started right away and come into a seated posture, having the left shin in front of the other in our Sukhasana position. We'll start briefly. Take a moment to slow down, to stop before we start moving. So when you're ready, go ahead and allow the hands to rest either on the knees, or you can allow them to gently rest down into the lap as well. Find a position where you can start to release the shoulders a little further away from the ears. Sitting up tall in the spine. Feeling the crown grow towards the sky and the sit bones settle into the earth. At this time, when we begin to settle into the body, this is when we delve a little bit more deeply and start to connect with the breath. We're not here to move or to create a particular breath practice or exercise throughout this class. We're here as observers, noting the quality of our breath. Slowly as we unwind, we maybe feel the breath explore into the body a little more. As you begin, maybe you notice where your breath originates. Perhaps your breath starts a little more higher up into the chest. Maybe you breathe all the way down into the belly. Notice your inhales versus your exhales. Find these small minutiae, the length of the inhale as it compares to the exhale. Without making any judgment. And trying not to force any change. Just allow the breath to come and go. When you're ready, you can softly blink the eyes open. Allow the hands to come to the knees if they weren't already there. And we're going to take some circles with the torso, sometimes called coffee grinder or kundalini circles. So from here, we're going to wrap the hands around the front of the knees. And then we're going to come into almost like a cow-shaped pose. And we're going to lean forward, reach with the heart center. And then we're going to start to circle. We'll go into a clockwise position, and as we come to the back, we're going to tuck the tailbone, allow the head and the shoulders to round, and then we're going to come over towards the left side. And then as we come back through center again, we're going to reach and lead with the chest. So think of it as drawing a great big circle, or you're inside of a barrel, and you're trying to reach all sides of the barrel with your torso, the front, the right, the back, and the left. Go ahead and move with this motion. Perhaps finding the breath as you make these circles, naturally exhaling as you roll back. And then feeling into an inhale as you come forward. On the next one, we're going to reverse that motion and come into a counterclockwise. A little different movement. You might feel yourself rocking on the hips slightly. That's normal. And you can feel free to pause in any spot that maybe needs a little extra care, a little extra time. Very good. When you're ready, we're going to come back to neutral and then start to hinge forward from the hips, coming into a forward fold in our cross-legged position. You can have blocks underneath the forearms if you'd like to stay up a little bit higher. But continue to feel the hips ground and connect and feel that backward movement, still rooting into the mat, connecting with the earth. As I said today, our sequence today is built on the focus of the ego. This habitual habit that we have as human beings to stay within these boundaries, these boxes that we create for ourselves. Often thinking of ourselves over others. As we practice yoga and we start to move more mindfully and start to observe ourselves, we start to learn this acceptance. Accepting our body, observing the way that we move within ourselves, and the way we think. As we work to improve on our acceptance of ourselves, often that can lead to acceptance of others and finding ourselves to be more selfless in our acts. Very good. On an inhale, let's come back to an upright position. We're going to switch the cross of the legs so that we can work into the hips evenly. And so this time the right shin comes in front of the left. We're going to go into those coffee grinders or into those little vertical barrel rolls once more. So hands on the knees. Again, lead into the chest. Reach forward and then start to move in a clockwise position, rounding back, tucking the tailbone, drawing the navel in. And then moving towards the left. Again, drawing great big circles. Use the hands to kind of guide yourself as you move back and to the side. We'll take one more in this direction before we reverse it out. And then start to move in a counterclockwise position. Always seems like one side feels a little less natural to me than the other. Probably how my hips are or how my spine is. But that doesn't mean that, for one, you might be able to affect change with practice and time. Or two, I can't come to accept that part of my body and that natural way that it wants to move. And then we'll return back to stillness from here. And we'll take one more forward fold, again working into this side, walking the hands over, maybe forearms come to the earth or to a couple pairs of blocks to keep the mat and the earth a little bit more higher for you. Inhale. Exhale, release the head, neck, and shoulders down. As you hold in any posture, if you feel like you can come a little more deeply, maybe extending the arms out a little more further away from you, crawling the fingertips away, and then once more coming into stillness. Find that posture and ease back into it. On an inhale, you can use the arms to walk yourself back to an upright position. And we're going to go ahead and come through tabletop, lower yourself down onto your belly. From here, we're going to come into our Sphinx pose. Extend the legs out long. Open the feet up a little bit wider than the hips to make space for your low back. And then check to make sure your elbows are just slightly in front of the shoulders. If they're too close to the shoulders, it's going to be a little hard to really feel into this gentle back bend. We want them in a comfortable position, maybe about 2 inches or so in front of the shoulders. The hands are open up on a very slight diagonal, maybe pointing to the top right and left corners of the mat, and allow the fingers to open up just so that they're safely and widely spread apart. From here, we're going to hold in our Sphinx pose, enjoying this gentle back bend. Moving into the heart space, creating space for ourselves, and feeling open. Open across the chest and across the collarbone. Feel the opening of the heart, allowing more kindness for ourselves. Maybe feeling that kindness radiate out to others. And still following the breath, maybe noticing the belly rise and fall and connect with the mat in this back bend. A gentle massage across the abdomen just by using the flow of the breath. We'll stay in this Sphinx pose, but we're going to activate the legs and the hamstrings and start by drawing the right foot in. You can keep the toes pointed. Activating into that right hamstring, try to draw the right heel to the glute. And then go ahead and release. Start to draw the left heel in towards the left glute. I know often this can lead to some cramping in the thigh. That's quite natural. Release the left foot, draw in the right, and lower. Left lifts and lowers down. Right lifts and lowers. And then finally the left lifts and lowers down. A very gentle but effective way to activate the back line of the hamstrings and the legs. From our Sphinx pose, we're going to go ahead and just relax in Sphinx and come into crocodile. So lower the head, neck, and shoulders down onto the back of the hands. Allowing a little rebound from our back bend this morning. And you'll notice throughout our practice today, we have plenty of folds. Allowing ourselves to turn inward. This is an effective way to internalize your thoughts, not so much to evaluate or try to nitpick our way into what we're thinking or trying to think about the next part of our day. This is just space for us to allow ourselves to observe where our mind leads us. And no matter where the mind wants to take us, we always have our main and most important aspect to fall back on, and that is our breath, giving us guidance and giving us life. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and bring the hands underneath the armpits, and we're going to push ourselves back and come into a tabletop position. From our tabletop, we're going to come into a short dragon sequence. So we're going to step the left foot up and bring it to the outside of the left hand. So we're in baby dragon. The right leg is extended back. The knee is on the earth for this posture. Your hands can stay connected to the mat, or if you feel better having them up on blocks, being a little bit higher, you can do that as well. Holding here in our dragon pose for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once you feel the left hip start to release, maybe soften into that part of the body a little more, you can come down further to forearms, onto blocks, or maybe even all the way down onto the mat if you're ready for that. And feel free, since we are taking long holds in a yin practice, always feel free to allow the head and the neck to release. Sometimes even having a third block underneath the forehead for support can feel fabulous, taking the weight off of the neck. If you'd like to deepen, we're going to move into the next phase of our dragon pose, and we're going to start to roll out onto the outer edge of that left foot, opening up into that left hip more deeply. So the left knee is tracking out, but it's also still in line with the left toes. That's why we allow the left foot to lift up. I have that inside arch lifting up from the mat. From here, you can stay down on the forearms. If you would like to take a gentle twist, you can take the left hand and bring it just to the inside of that left thigh, adding a little bit more pressure into that left hip, and then the chest rotates and reaches up towards the sky. It can be so easy to want to rush these practices and to have a fast movement or a fast exercise class every day of the week. I know I'm very guilty of wanting to go, 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 and to break a sweat. But sometimes slowing down is something that we all need, and that can also be said. It can be a great way to improve our ego as well. Slowing down, it's harder to take this time because the mind finds places to go where I think we're usually looking for distractions for our mind. But when we're holding here, it's kind of like the brain doesn't have anywhere to go. And we need to find a way to still that monkey mind that is always moving. To come out of this dragon lunge, first we're going to come through baby dragon. If you have your blocks underneath you, go ahead and move them out of the way for now. And then we're going to just come up onto the hands. When you're ready, shift the hips back and come into tabletop. If you'd like, you can go ahead and stretch the legs out. Maybe pump the feet back a couple of times just to allow the hips to get that release and the rebound from holding. From here, we're going to shift back into a kneeling position. Maybe bring the blocks with you so you have them close by. And we're going to come up into kneeling. Again, for a gentle back bend. We're going to take a camel prep pose. So the knees should be situated just about hip width distance apart so you feel stable. The toes can be tucked or untucked, whichever feels good for you. And then we're going to take the hands with the fingertips facing up and then have them just above the tailbone, so situated at the low back. From here, start to draw the elbows back, together and down, shoulder blades drawing down, and then reach the chest, lift the chest and the heart center up towards the sky. Maybe the gaze starts to fall back. You can keep the neck nice and neutral here, gazing up at the sky, and perhaps pushing forward just slightly with the hips. On an inhale, let's come back up into our kneeling posture. You can release the hands. We're going to prepare to come into a deeper version of camel. If it's in your practice, you can take a full camel pose by taking the hands all the way down to the heels. But I'm going to demonstrate just a middle version. If you'd like to keep it just at that camel prep by having the hands at the low back, go ahead and stay there. That's a beautiful way to come into your back bend. You can also have a couple of blocks on the outside of the ankles, maybe at the highest or the middle height, and then start to reach the hands back, placing them on the blocks. From here, again, lifting with the heart center, pushing forward slightly with the hips, and breathing into your camel pose. If you're using blocks and your fingertips are facing forward, that's fine. That's the version I'm going with. You can also have them facing the back of the block. It's really dependent on your wrists and even into your arms and shoulders. With any posture, I just encourage you to play around and find what feels best and kind of hits that sweet spot of what you want to work into today. Very good. From your camel pose, use the strength in the upper body to come up, and then we're going to slowly sit back onto the heels and move the blocks out of the way, maybe towards the front of the mat for now. When you're ready, we're going to come through tabletop, and then we're going to shift into that dragon pose on the right side. So we're going to step the right foot up and to the outside of the right hand for dragon. On this side, extend the left leg out behind you. The left knee is down. And you can start by having the hands on the mat or even elevated up on blocks. The right knee is up against the right upper arm, and we'll hold here in our dragon posture. And if you're familiar with with Vinyasa yoga, you're probably thinking, well, this is lizard pose. And yes, Yin and Vinyasa do have different names for their poses. So you may find them used interchangeably in different classes. After you've held in your baby dragon. Maybe you want to lower down a little bit further, or maybe you want to stay right where you're at. That's perfectly fine. Seek out the ease within your body by using the breath. Time to seek out any spots that might be holding or tensing during these deep hip openers. So, as always, check in with the face. Sometimes we hold a lot of tension into the face, in between the eyes, even that little space in between the eyebrows. Feel the energy in that space and just picture a softening, a smoothing of the muscles and of the skin. And maybe from there you feel even the rest of the face start to soften. From our baby dragon, we're going to start to open up into that right hip a little more deeply. If you would like to try, we'll swing that right knee open just slightly and come onto the outside edge of the right foot. Maybe revolve the chest, take the right hand to the inside of that right thigh. Coming into our dragon twist or winged dragon. We're going to slowly come out of this posture, especially because we've held it for such a length of time. The hips are going to be much more loose as we come out, maybe not as stable. So we want to be slow and conscious of our movement. Lifting up that right foot, bring it back behind us. And from here, we're going to shift back and we're going to take a little rest into a wide-legged child's pose. We'll keep the arms extended out long. Open up the knees nice and wide, big toes touching, and then you can allow the forehead just to rest onto the floor. Coming here, just simple rest pose for just a minute or so. Exploring the spaces of our body with our breath as we breathe deeply into the spine, reaching all the way down into the tailbone. Maybe feeling your hips rise up even slightly from the inhale. And then exhale, relaxing more closely towards the heels. On the next inhale, we'll come through tabletop, let's go ahead and swing those ankles out to the side and then move the legs towards the front of the mat. We're going to prepare for a seated forward fold. So you can absolutely sit up a little bit higher in your seated forward bend onto a folded blanket. You can also have a nice bolster underneath the knees. Or, as I'm doing, I'm just going to keep a slight bend in the knees as I come into my forward fold, starting to walk the upper torso over the top of the legs and just resting the upper body down. The hands, the palms can stay facing up. We just don't want to be pulling or forcing anything into this forward fold. We're going to fully relax, getting a nice stretch into the back, all the way from shoulders down to the lower back. And maybe after a minute here, if you feel like you would like to straighten the legs a little more, you can just walk the hips back, shift from one sit bone to the other, and maybe straighten the legs a little more deeply. Once you're ready, come back in, forward fold over the legs, and resume stillness in the posture. Enjoying these times of stillness and release. Finding ways that you can surrender to yourself. Surrender in self-love. And to let go of the ego or anything that you might be holding on to. Again, to come out, we're going to use the upper body and the hands and start bringing ourselves to an upright position. When you're ready, we're going to lower ourselves down onto our backs for banana pose. So starting with the spine in line here for our banana pose, we'll begin first by moving the legs. So we're going to move the legs to it would be the top left corner of the mat. And then we're going to have the left leg and the right leg move over. If it feels good, you might even cross the right ankle on top of the left. From here, we'll shift the upper body to the back left corner of the mat, reaching the right and the left arms over, creating this great big crescent shape, a banana, maybe taking a hold of that right wrist with the left hand. And as you breathe here, notice how the breath changes. Some restriction into the left side ribs, but we're still breathing just as much into the left side as we are into the right. Allowing the right shoulder to relax down into the earth and the right hip to still stay connected. We'll slowly come out of our side bend. You can release the arms and return the torso back to neutral and then follow with the legs. We're going to move over to the opposite side. So we'll draw the right foot to the top right corner and then the left foot as well. Maybe cross the left ankle on top of the right for a little greater stretch in the outside of that left leg. And then we're going to move the torso to the back right corner of the mat, making sure that both of the shoulders are connecting into the mat, and then reach for that left hand with the right hand and take a nice stretch. I love how this feels into the outside of the hip. It's a great stretch to take that requires not a whole lot, just using the unique shape to find new space within the body. We'll start to release again by bringing the torso back to center and then bringing the legs back so that you're in alignment from here. From this shape, we're going to come into fish pose. So you may need to roll up and grab a prop. I am going to demonstrate a couple of different ways of using the bolster to provide a little assistance in this gentle back bend. So the first way I'm going to show is having the bolster going across the mat. And then you're going to try to situate the bolster so it comes right underneath the middle portion of the chest. And then allow yourself to drape over the bolster so the shoulders are supported. The arms can come out into a large V shape. And then the head just drapes off the back of the bolster. You can stay right here in your fish pose. If it is too much to have the head draping off the back of the bolster, what you will do is have the bolster in line with the mat. The very bottom of the bolster will come to about mid-chest, and that will be where it starts our back bend, but then you'll be supported and have a little cushion for your head. And I think that this feels pretty good for me, so I'm actually just going to stay right here in my fish pose. You may notice that I widen my legs a little more to make a little more space for my low back, and then allow the feet to come out and fall to the sides. Arms can open up wide into a V with the palms facing up. And from here, we're going to settle into our fish pose. And this will be our modified Shavasana for the class. So we're going to think about settling in for these last couple of minutes to close out our practice. As we've moved mindfully through most of our practice today, we will continue to stay in that space where we increase our awareness of the body, noticing any openness we have into the heart center, feeling that both physically and maybe mentally as well. Feeling any space that we've created within ourselves and made acceptance and space for ourselves. Perhaps we can share that with others today. Releasing that ego and those boundaries that hold us. Seeking new ways to be selfless and accepting for ourselves and for others. When you're ready, you can maybe draw the feet in. You can slowly roll onto the side. Use the forearm to push yourself up and come back into a cross-legged seat, whichever version you feel is comfortable for you. And from here, we'll close out our practice by taking an inhale, drawing the arms up, and then reaching the hands down through heart center with a slight tuck of the chin and bowing in gratitude for ourselves and for others. Thank you for joining me in class today. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I do have a variety of practices that come out every single Sunday. You can watch for them here and get notifications on your YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. As always, have a great day and make it a good one. Bye.